Hey guys, what's going on? This is David here, and you're on another edition of Patanomics Podcast, New York Weekly's #1 podcast. And let me tell you today, I have one of my closest and best friends. He is not just a doctor, he is also a good humanitarian, a businessman, and someone I confide in very, very much. My good friend, Dr. John. How you doing, my friend?
Awesome, David. How are you, brother?
Good, man. You know, we've been friends for quite a bit. I mean, we've been through different cities, relationships, different countries, and we have managed to stay friends through many, many years and countless changes. And, first off, I want to thank you for always just being you. You're an amazing
Yeah, brother.
human
I can say the same to you. Yeah.
I love you. You inspire me. You're a good father and you're a good man, and I'm very proud to have you as a friend. So thank you for joining our show today. You are a doctor and a businessman. And let's talk a little bit about this journey because, in our friendship, everything that we have done was never what we thought it was going to be. There were so many course corrections. I think right now, everyone that might know, I personally am having a hard time in my life. My father is in ICU, as everyone probably knows, in a car accident a couple of days ago. I myself was in a car accident a couple of days before that. It's been a very, very crazy time. And I think to myself, the plans, because we started talking about some very exciting news that you're going to be doing and the plans of things that we're going to have and how much it shifts and changes and how much it uncenters and unfocuses us, right?
Yeah.
You had a really amazing thing that you said to me yesterday when we were talking about my father. You said to me, a hospital is a place where there's constantly bad things happening, but it's not a bad place.
Right.
And then I said to you, I'm so glad that I understand that situation, given my dad and where we're at, the type of energies that come in your life and how you constantly have the ability to kind of make those adjustments and not take things in such stride and such heat where it affects you at an astounding rate, right? Because it is a very, it can be a dissipating place. And your thought process and the way you think, what gives you that strength and that knowledge, man?
Sure, man. First of all, talking about, hospitals, such as like life too, people always have this idea of the hospital. Oh man, that, it's a horrible hospital. This and this happened, it's kind of like, people's tendency to fixate on the negative in their life too. 100 good things happen in a hospital. But also bad things happen there too that are out of our control. So, people like to, fixate on that negativity sometimes. And we do it in our personal life, we do it everywhere else, but especially with hospital where, people pass away, people are seriously ill. And, you got to step back from it a little bit and say, there's a lot of great things going on in these places as well.
Yeah.
People who are experts in the top of their fields are there, to do the best that we can. So,
it's interesting that you said that because that is a shift in perspective. And I think that's something that we as men, as best friends, have gone through and talked about, is shifting our perspective towards a greater and more powerful and amazing life.
Right.
You weren't always a doctor. It was
True.
a journey. Tell us this journey and a little bit about yourself that got you here.
Yeah, man. So, if you would have asked me when I was graduating high school or earlier in life, what I wanted to be when I quote unquote grew up, the last thing I would have told you would be that I wanted to be a physician. I left college. I got into the construction trades. I grew up doing construction my entire life. Had a plumbing company and farmed. I actually have, my undergraduate degree is in animal science initially. So when the economy started going south, I was in my, mid-20s running a construction company and farming. And, we had the big housing collapse and the Great Recession of the late 2000s. And I really had to step back and kind of reevaluate my life and my purpose.
And that's crazy because you were in such a different part of your life.
Yeah.
Things were going. The economy hit. You knew nothing about it. What did you do to make that shift in your head? Because it's not an easy place when things are happening. You built everything and it's not working, right? Like, it's a dark place. It's hard. It's really hard to get out of, right?
It's hard, man.
Really better. How'd you do that?
Yeah. So, I always have this, kind of mantra I tell myself. It's, be upset about something for 24 hours. I was taking hit after hit, losing business, at times not knowing how I was going to put food on the table or put gas in my car. And you can be upset about these things for a while, 24 hours, but then after that, you better start coming up with a plan. I've always been great at sciences, and I love taking care of people. And, I come from a family with multiple physicians. Part of the reason I didn't want to become a physician in the first place, I'd been around it quite a bit. But then it's kind of like the stars aligned and things started making sense, that I kind of saw this path forward. And it was pretty, from the day I decided, it was, a beeline straight to that. And within about a year and a half, I was in medical school once I decided.
Yeah, what's crazy is when you're doing a path and you have a journey, I think a lot of people think that when they get out of high school or college or right now in your current job, and you're sitting there and you're just kind of like, I don't want to keep doing this the rest of my life. But most people have a very pivotal moment that even though they know that, they do nothing about it.
Right.
And then they fixate on it. And then they do the most easiest thing, which I think a lot of us do, is we feel bad for ourselves.
Right.
Because it's much more easier to feel bad about yourself than want to improve. And as men, as we talk in our relationship, things like that, like I always, and you always say to ourselves, if it doesn't matter 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. We always say that, right? It doesn't matter 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. When you're going through it and fixating it, there was a pivotal moment that you had to change and adjust your ego at the most pitiful self that you might have felt about yourself and said, I can do this, and get your strength. But there's another part where you stayed focused. What made you stay focused on this type of points? Because it's hard, man. Like you're doing great and the shit goes wrong, and then you gotta figure out how to make it work,
Yeah, man, absolutely. So, one, you have to, people fall into this victim mentality trap. Their ego is hurt. They look at everything outside of themselves. We can only control ourselves. We can't control everything else in the world around us. So I think, taking that ego blow, you have to have those failures. You have to have those failures to overcome and adapt to, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. So, growing up, sports, school, various things in life that give you those failures that you overcome is, I think, what gave me the ability to do so multiple times throughout my life, as you know. So I think, putting your pride to the side, stepping back from the situation, making a plan in your head. And it's not going to be a perfect plan, right? You're going to keep failing along the way, but every day getting up, every day showing up. And you're going to have bad days, and you take those in stride, and you keep moving forward.
It's interesting because you talk about these bad days and you come from a medical profession and you understand that as you started studying it, a lot of it in your thought process, I think people start to realize that you have to kind of get yourself out of the situation if you're able to and kind of go from there.
Right.
Now you look at all this alternative medicine. You're talking about people taking psychedelics, taking shrooms. It's a big hot topic. College going from there, right? As a medical professional, what are your thoughts about this, with these psychedelics? Or is this going to create some sort of like morphosis in their brain where you're going to figure it all out, or you're going to sit there and not figure it out, right? Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, my firsthand knowledge is not there to make a medical recommendation on what is the right thing to do. But, we don't know what we don't know. I think the mind is a very powerful thing. I know, for people with, traumas or chronic pain, depression, like ketamine treatment has been shown to be very effective. As far as the other psychedelics, as far as like mushrooms, I'm not in a position to comment as a medical professional on that, just because I haven't read all the research and it's not something within my realm of practice that I do. But, this is why we study things, and this is why we, relate back to the professionals in these particular areas. I think, 100 years ago, the treatments we have now, we didn't have. So I think, exploring all these alternatives is a worthwhile endeavor for sure.
It trips me out. Like, you hear popular culture, you hear about Joe, I'm sitting here in these business meetings, and I have people telling me I'm in psychedelics and I'm selling mushrooms.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, you're doing whatever you want to do and how you go from there. But that thought changes totally shift, right? Like, it's almost like people are taking it as some are superfood and going from there? Or have you seen those new commercials where they're taking in, it's like a mushroom, lion's mane mushroom. And to me, that was like my whole entire childhood, right? Like the ginger, the ginseng, all the like spice. I'm like, dude, this was like a Chinese neighborhood in my kitchen when my mom was there, you know?
Yeah.
Now they're making all these amazing things and going from there. And there's a lot of this information coming out. You said that's really, really important. And you talk about misinformation when it comes to this type of stuff. What are your concerns about the misinformation when it comes to like the mass youth and things like that about stuff like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think misinformation, you have to consider where you're getting your information from. I mean, in the medical field, we use, different types of studies, peer-reviewed journals to, make our decisions on what the best treatments are. So, we can go back, talk about a lot of things throughout recent history that weren't really well studied in medical literature, but became common practice based on certain, whether it be government influence or influence of other associations. But I think that's kind of outside of the, I guess, topic I would want to put out my personal opinion on at this time. So I think, we don't know what we don't know, but I think, looking at these alternatives is absolutely a worthwhile pursuit.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, when we're in the gaming industry, we have a lot of children and a lot of youth people that have mental issues and mental health issues. They're really trying to deal with it. And there's a lot of stigma behind it for them. And so the information that they're receiving from their friends or from popular culture and TV, a lot of times, if you look at it, this terrifies me, dude. I don't know if you read the study. Gen Z, which is the guys, your kids' age and under, they're consuming all their information from TikTok. That's their search engine, right? So when you're looking at the doctors that are coming there and putting this information out, and you talk about gamers, a lot of these kids, because they feel introverted, because they don't have the opportunity to go out there, they're finding ways to find out what's best for them. And they're seeing this misinformation and going from there. And I think it's important, like you said, like we absolutely have to lead with an understanding and clear thing and knowing that everyone's a little bit differently. And I think that's just my personal opinion on it. But I find this very interesting because, you've become quite a gamer in the last couple of months, my friend.
Right.
And I know that for many, many years, this is going to say years now, we've had this discussion. And then one day we laid it down in Fortnite, baby, and we never looked back. And I want to talk about that because that's twice now that you've changed in different mind frames. And so you're showing a constant change. The doctor, human being, business, they're going from there. But talk about what your stigma thought of gaming was and how you see it now. First, from a just as a thought process, as a business person standpoint. That's the first question I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to ask another question after that.
Yeah, I mean, also, David, growing up, I come from agricultural town. I grew up building homes and working on a ranch since I was
a man.
13, 14 years old, and gaming, there was no place for gaming. We had the Nintendo 64 GoldenEye. And I specifically remember, growing up, I was in my late teens, and one day I was playing GoldenEye, and I got in super big trouble for it. So, because I was supposed to be outside working. So, kind of coming from that background where, work happened outside, blood, sweat, and tears, building, creating in this tangible world, we kind of got this mindset that gaming was not productive. It wasn't contributing to the overall, job.
Understandable, right?
I have a son. He's 12 now, and we've always let him game a little bit, and he's always been into it, and he's super good at Fortnite, as you well know. And so I've had to kind of step back and understand that this is his future. This is the future of our society, to be more online based and more rooted in things we can't reach our hand out and and grasp. It's something more I don't know what the best word is for it, but it's not something you can feel tangibly in your hands. So it's this online universe, and the more I thought about it, I started kind of softening my stance on it. And I think especially for my son, it's like, well, if he's well-rounded, he plays sports, he does well in school, and he likes to game, and it's and he balances his time very well. He's not locked in a room for 12 hours. He'll play for, we're just playing here, an hour ago, and he played a few games on Fortnite, and we went back and forth a few times, and it was great.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I like about it, and I showed you a little bit about Fit Gamer and the companies we're working with, and I tell you how they had that STEM approved and how it's health and wellness. And so, something that at the university level, I tell this all the time, like your physical health is as important, if not more important, than anything else that you could do, as well as your mental health is. And so sure. I think it's good. It's weird because like you think about those GoldenEye days, man.
Those are great days.
Right. And getting smacked upside the head for not doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because that's what happened to me. I was supposed to be working at the restaurant, right? So I'm playing 2K or something. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about it is I will almost tell you it was a little bit more different because the way that they communicate now is through gaming. Like me and you talk, right, through gaming when we're playing, and we play at least once a week together, right? We stay connected that way. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's good because I stay connected to my friend. We're not talking about anything else. We get to play with 3 kids. We get to really kind of bond together as a family, right?
Right.
But it's a way to share information. I think a lot of parents, a lot of people listening to this is be aware of the information that's being shared and that's sitting there, because a lot of times, a lot of people don't like the toxic community. So if your kids are out there and are talking to people and knowing what that is, I think keeping them safe and understanding who they're talking to as far as the gamer side is important. But, the general rules are most people are very annoying. So you just mute them before they even add on to you, right? Like there's a lot of common sense that parents have that I think a lot of things. Now, when you look at gaming, what are some of the things that surprised you from a business aspect that you thought about? You're like, man, I just can't believe this is what it was.
Yeah, go back to just like with the kids and how they deal with gaming too. I think just as like learning life on the playground, when you're young, learning these coping mechanisms and how you deal with other kids you get in an argument with. I mean, these are life lessons that you got to learn, and you can learn those same lessons in gaming as well when you're dealing with other people. So I think just to add back to that, like
I love that.
Learning these coping mechanisms, learning how to deal with conflict, and
the rules of the jungle, man.
What's that?
It's the rules of the jungle. It's you not kissing my girlfriend underneath the little cement, what's those little cement things called? The circles that you would go under.
Merry-go-round.
Yeah. Don't kiss my girlfriend there. But the point is, you're right. Those rules really exist, and they're at a way more global level.
Yeah, man. So now moving forward in gaming and being, people, I try to say, oh, I'm friends with David. Oh, what's David do? I'm like, years ago, it was very hard for me to explain what you did because it was so far outside of a realm of understanding for me. Now moving forward, seeing you, teaching college courses and putting on, these gaming events and all the marketing that goes along with it, I really see, this whole other world that I wasn't exposed to before. So it's definitely opened my eyes to a different, I guess, dimension that's existed for a long time. I just wasn't privy to it.
Yeah, I like it, and I appreciate it because it almost brings back the most best times in our lives, which is, childhood and being a kid. And I mean, that was fun, and passing down now that we're watching retro movies, and your kid is basically playing the same games we played, and we can talk about Jordan because we live Jordan. We can watch Mario and literally pick out every single scene in Mario and be like, dude, that was from Mario Kart. That was a song. Like we knew it because it spoke to us, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at your bottom dollar, look at like the Marty McFlys, bro. Those things went for $70,000. And you think to yourself, Back to the Future, most people don't even know who he is. But the ones that do did that nostalgia, and I love that, and we talk a little bit about that because it's pretty exciting as you're going together. Now you're starting to work together on different parts of your business, right? Things that you're working on, different ideas and opportunities. Tell us a little bit more about the business side of things that you're working on and how you kind of get through your day-to-day to balance out your business and your family and being a doctor and playing Fortnite as well.
Yeah, right. In Fortnite, it's a good, some people may, sit in front of the TV and watch, their show for an hour or two at night or read a book. I think, playing Fortnite, when we all get on and play Fortnite, it's kind of that relaxation period where you just can kind of reboot and have some fun and be social. We're able to chat, me, you, Katie, Aiden, all of us just having a good time playing Fortnite. So it's a good way to reboot. I think as far as balancing your life, people want to talk about having this perfect balance in their life, where it's whether you work your 9 to 5 and then you spend so much time with your family and you spend so much time doing this. I think having that ideal balance in life, I don't truly believe in that, as long as you're hitting these key factors that are important. If you're doing your job, I mean, for me, that's very important, and you're fulfilling your obligations as within your family, whether if you have children, or to siblings, or to your parents, if you're filling those obligations, and you have that time to be social with friends, and create and maintain those friendships that are valuable. And I have to emphasize valuable friendships. There's a lot of people that are acquaintances, and a lot of people you don't mind hanging out with, but they're not valuable relationships.
I like that. And let's define that, because I think this is a very important thing. We're not saying that. I think we talk about valuable is there's only 168 hours in a week, and you can only spend so much time with someone, right? And so if that person's not being positive, not bringing you up, they're not enhancing, they're not trying to make you grow. That's what we're talking about, right? We're definitely, and certain people, there might be people who aren't there, but at least they're trying, and that's valuable, right? They'll slip and fall and go from there. It's the ones that I think always routinely try to bring you down and break you down and not make that work, right? And I think that's what you're saying,
Yeah, David. Like, how long has it been since we've seen each other in person? A year and a half, maybe?
Probably longer than that, man.
It's been a minute, but there's been no break in our friendship. We support each other as if we saw each other yesterday. Mm-hmm. When I'm down or I'm, not at my best, I can call you and you bring me up, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So I think the mark of a true friendship is that it's mutual, it's beneficial, and we bring each other up when the other person's down. It's always that saying, like, keep it, a small circle around you, and we definitely have that circle. It's more like a family.
Yeah.
And if you're entertaining people that don't have your best interests at heart, if you're with a group of friends just because they're quote unquote cool or whatever, they're not making you the best version of yourself. I don't have time to invest into friendships that don't bring out the best side of me.
Yeah, and this is important, because for a lot of people who are going to start coming into different situations as you're leveling up, you're going to face different problems, man. And you're not just talking about like business problems. You're talking about life problems. You're talking about social problems, things that you've never thought you would see, things that you think are in the movies, scenarios that exist that you think are just crazy. And you have to almost remember the type of person that you are in those environments, your core individual. And if you somehow slip and forget, you got to have that one friend that's going to do that. And I say this all the time, like, I'm the type of friend, and you know this, I will tell you there's shit in your teeth. I will never let you walk around with shit in your teeth. Right. A lot of people don't like that. They get very offended that you told them that. But I'd rather be the guy who tells you that than 30 other guys laughing at you and pointing at you, right? And I think that's a mark of a true friendship, and I know you're the same way. And you talk about this energy and positivity, like, dude, there's a real study where it talks about how much media and things that you consume and how much it affects your energy and what you're thinking and how you feel. And there's studies like that.
Sure.
I always tell people that I mentor, I work with, I'm like, it's got to be 24/7. I saw it to you time. It's just like, you can't be doing things that are stressing you out and making you upset. Like I don't like to watch horror movies and stress movies, not because I like they don't scare me. My life is so stressful. I want to watch comedies and laugh and be in a good mindset and play with my friends, right? You can position yourself in this. And so in two aspects, if you're stuck at home and you can't leave, at least in gaming, you can position yourself with people that at least will talk to you in a mindset and become friends. So if you're an introvert, you can do that, right? I think the second thing is, if you're like me and you, who we've been in different countries the last 2.5 years in different cities. We lived in the same city together 5 years ago, and that was like 5 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Now we're still at. You can still continue to talk to people, I think that's a really important factor. I think a lot of people need to understand that there is that opportunity, that hope. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and that's so true. And I'm naturally an introverted person, and almost everybody that knows me now would laugh at that.
Yeah, me too.
But as you know, I grew up young. I had speech difficulties. I had, moved around a lot. Got made fun of a lot as a kid. So I naturally have always been in a shell. And I decided that's not the life I wanted to live. And it's taken me a lot of time over the years. As you know, I generally don't do well with speaking. There's been a few times I've had to give, whether it's a best man speech and I just freeze and lock up. And I've had to take my weakness and make it my strength. And I'm still working on it. But I think as long as we're always like assessing ourselves, looking at our weaknesses, and figuring out ways to overcome them, I think we're doing well. And you have to have friends, i.e. you, who bring that side out in us. We were on the phone, I think last week, and I just was like, "Man, David, I don't know, I'm just tired and I just don't feel I'm ready to do these things." And you're like, "Listen, just do it." It's like a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step.
Yeah.
So I think having those people around you that bring out those best sides and kind of give you those pieces of wisdom when you're not, necessarily in that right mindset. And I know you said, even if you're tired, you're still going to do it, and you just kind of rise to the occasion. And I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times people think that there's a choice. And I think I'll give you an example of just a situation. And the reality is, this is very personal, but we're talking about my dad's condition, right? And the thing I really think about is the reality. The reality is the man does fall, the man does hit his shins, the man moves quickly, the man doesn't pay attention. So I have to speak in reality. And the reality is this is who he is and what his situation is, and how can I work with the current environment that I have to make that reality work. I think a lot of people don't think of reality. Their egos are stuck where they are. They don't really think about what the situation is. Like, hey, like husband and wives argue about money, and you're like, dude, I would do everything I can possibly to make all this money. You getting on me and yelling at me and making me feel this big is not going to help me. The reality is you doing that is not helping me. The reality is the energy and the time that you're doing to hurt me is not making me want to do it even more. It's making me feel worse. And if I don't feel worse, I can't show up to work. I always tell this to a lot of people. I'm like, dude, you think LeBron James or you think Nikolai Djokovic is sitting there and people are ranting at him and talking to him and they're best friends and talking shit? No, what they're saying to him is they're trying to encourage them. And they don't. And I think a lot of people make this wrong. Like, I grew up in a culture where, like, when we sat down and we had dinner, there was always something wrong with the fucking meal. Because we're Asian. We just go through it. Oh, this could be better, go from there. And it's not meant to be negative. It's just what we do, right? And, and I realized, I was like, why? Why? Yeah. It's just the mood. And I think that's where a lot of people don't have is that reality.
Yeah, dude. And that is so true. And I've been thinking a lot about that lately. That's the people you have in your corner that make or break you, man. I think we both come from a background with quite a bit of negativity, and it's a hell of a lot harder crawling up out of that hole and crawling up that ladder when you got people trying to pull you down. You put those right people in your life who are sitting there pushing you up, they're propping you up, and it makes all the difference in the world.
I love that. I always compliment guys like Flex Lewis, sometimes Mr. Olympia and Austin Eckler, leading running back, who are friends of ours. And I'll tell you, the thing that they do is there's no time for them to talk shit about anybody.
Right.
And that was the difference. Like we've been around people that have a lot of money and a lot of power, but they don't have that money and power. And they don't talk badly. There's just nothing to talk about. I don't even think, and all of your friend on all the years of our friendship, I don't think there's not many people we even say anything bad about because it's not in our friendship. We don't even bring that in. And so
it's not worth my time.
It's not worth their time. And that's what I want people to understand is like, whatever you're doing, it has to be worth your time. And if you're bullshitting and you're griping and you're being upset and you're taking shit negatively, like, of course you're going to have a negative result because you've allowed that to come into your space, right? That's like sitting there and saying, you're aware that you got in a car accident. You're like, well, I didn't know it was going to happen. Well, you drove with a flat tire the whole time. You knew it. You didn't care.
Right.
I think that's a big issue. You see kind of the state of young people and the youth, and kind of the way that people are kind of making some adjustments and their mental health space. What do you see encouraging that you find is going to help the future of the world?
Yeah, that's a tough question, but I think a lot of it goes to people learning how to fail properly. And we all fail, we all fall down, and not letting it be the end of the world for you. Overcoming those failures, getting back up and moving forward. And I have two kids, 12 and 15, and they've always been raised this way. You deal with your situation. Whether it's losing in a sporting event or getting a bad grade in school, you have to be able to cope with those things, then devise a plan to overcome it. And I see kids doing it all the time, and kind of getting that mindset of a champion. I think learning consequences. We can't live in a consequence-free world where you can do whatever you would like without consequences and keep moving on. You have to learn to lose. You got to learn to get beat. There's no participation ribbons, because those losses are what teach you the lessons you need to win and win at life and be successful.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like I'm a very compassionate, loving person, but I believe you get what you get. And I believe building confidence, even if it doesn't come from home, has to come from somewhere. And it has to come from you ingesting TV and knowing that you can get you out of the situation, because those stories exist in someone's life. Like someone had to have lived that life or something similar to get out of it, right?
Yeah, man.
Knowing that I got out of it, you got out of it, from a mental health space to an emotional space to a growth space where we are now, from very completely different environments, right? And get out of it. And you can get out of it. And I think the thing is, a lot of times when I see people talk and be badly, it's just because they're just insecure about themselves. Like it just is what it is. They're just very insecure about themselves.
That's huge. Yeah. And I think latching on to like the right role models is important. I left, the world that I had known, and I did so because I envisioned a life that I didn't know myself, but that I could dream of.
Yeah.
And I had good role models, even, friends that I looked up to, that helps kind of guide me. So I think kids having those role models that are putting out the right message is important. And, the insecurity is a big thing as well. And the insecurities, I think, you have to, once again, it goes back to learning how to win and lose. You have to be a good loser. You don't have to like it. In fact, you shouldn't like losing. But you should use that to fuel you and to make you better. And that goes back to winning. Like, what is winning? I mean, in sports, it's very objective. You outscored the other team, but winning in life is different for everybody. And it just has to do with what you value. And it doesn't have to be the same for everybody, but learning not to just be happy with mediocreness, or mediocrity.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Like, I think a lot of people are okay with just enough. And the reason that they're okay with just enough is because they were taught that was just enough. They were taught that this is the best that they can do. This is their environment. And they never believe in themselves that they can, but you can get out of it. In a world where everything is the internet and AI, you can absolutely get out of it. You can get out of it, right? And I think a lot of people, when you look at the average 15-year-old now compared to our age, those guys are millionaires. They do know crypto. They understand blockchain. They can make better marketing videos than the biggest marketing companies in the world.
Yeah, true.
And we have to really understand that we're dealing with a much more sophisticated and intelligent audience, because they're consuming their media and their information at a much quicker rate than me and you can ever consume, right? Yeah. And I think that's where you talk about that change and adaptation. I think a lot of people don't realize that through everything that you're going through every failure, it's really, the way I look at it is, you're just a fish swimming upstream. And there's rocks everywhere, and you have to swim around it.
Yeah.
If you cry about it and you stop, you go right back down. You got to go right back up, and you're stuck. And most people just don't want to do that. And it's worth the effort,
Yeah. No, and I think too, David, like I grew up with no matter what my circumstances were growing up, I grew up with a mother that told me I could do anything I wanted.
That's right.
And I took that to heart. you know, and I still feel that way.
Yeah.
And I imagine some people who were not raised with those same like positive affirmations, you know, when I was, you know, we were pretty poor when I was young. And, you know, even through all that, I still had in my mind that I could do anything I wanted. If I was curious about something, I went to the library, I read about it, you know, just having that you need to have that person in your life that reinforces, you know, those dreams for you, you know, you have to know in your heart and soul that you can have what you want. And it's different for everybody. It doesn't have to be, you know, 10 Lambos in a mansion, you know, it can be that, you know, white picket fence and, happily married and 2 kids. And, you know, happiness and success is different for everybody. You just have to know it's possible.
Yeah, and I think this is important, right? Because you have to know it's possible.
Right.
And if you are a person out there who doesn't have anyone believing in themselves, who doesn't think they can do that, let me tell you, John and I have both been there. We've had these honest conversations. I'm going to share these conversations that people don't believe in us, the people that we love the most not believe in us. But we believe in you, and you have to believe in you. And that's the most important part, right? And if you don't have a role model, be the role model. Be the person that's going to break the cycle that the next generation have to deal with. We talk about that all the time. We talk about the next generation and not learning and carrying on that baggage, teaching them. The people that are listening to this, the audience that understand this, you're elevated enough to know that you can be the change that you need for your family and create those legacies. And that's where I get super proud of the things that we're doing. Now, John, as we're trying to get close, because I know we could talk forever, you know, you're working on some big things coming up. And tell me one of the things you're working on and what excites you about them.
Yeah, man. I mean, not to give too many things away, definitely looking at how we can leverage, you know, technology and healthcare together, providing more access to patients that typically wouldn't have access to certain, you know, treatments. I think the future of healthcare is a bright one, especially for people willing to leverage technology. You know, it's a old profession that is going through a lot of changes. There's a lot of with every industry right now, especially with AI and, you know, remote care. There's a lot of advancements that are happening right now. So trying to be more at the cutting edge of those advancements is important. So working on a few opportunities in that realm right now.
Yeah, and the opportunities are, when I always talk about business, I always talk about one of my best friends, and he said, you want to scale a business, you can do it to 1 million people. You want to do $1 billion, you do it to 1 billion people, right? And so the ideas are to massive interconnect and help people all at one time. I think when I think about business, and I think about like generally the type of business that we're in, like we talked about this many times, like you're in a business where there's a limitation. John has to see X amount of patients at a time. Right. That's it. David can only teach so many people at a time. Well, the real money is made for everyone here that wants to listen is your ability to mass this thing, to take it to levels. Now, most people understand that in e-commerce, right? They understand to do that with Amazon, but they don't do it with their own brands. And so I see it as we talk about the future of medical, you talk about AI, and you kind of see what's happening there. I can see a lot of these trends in places that are going to be getting internet and getting things really working with healthcare and at a much quicker rates. Like even the contradiction right now that I'm dealing with in the hospital, I almost feel like that basic communication need should not be needed. And so the trends are going to make that happen, because if you don't make that happen, it's going to be over.
Yeah, nope, exactly. I mean, you can be, you know, there's a lot of controversy revolving around healthcare and AI. And of course, most people think, well, I don't want an AI bot treating my family member. And okay, yeah, I get that. And, you know, I'm not advocating for that either, but there's so many other processes within healthcare that can improve through technology. So it's not that the physician's judgment is going to be replaced. It's that all these other processes within healthcare can be streamlined and become more efficient and more cost effective.
Amazing. And cost effectiveness is the key. As our parents are getting older, I present everyone with 2 more cases as we're wrapping this up. Is your parents got to do something, you got to do something. They got to run around. If you think about your parents, are probably the happiest when they're playing with you at Mario Kart during Christmas. It just is what it is. Your kids are doing it. Everyone else will play Mario Kart. I think as we're getting older in the retirement communities, you see people playing bingo and things like that. We're going to be the ones that are playing gaming against each other,
That's
right?
man.
That's what we're going to be doing. You already know it. So I encourage you guys to get with the train and figure out what's going on. It's a great communication form at the end of the day. Now, John, as we're wrapping up, if there was one piece of advice that you can give to our listeners, business or in life, what would that piece of advice be?
Stay healthy.
Amen.
I think, you know, and I've struggled. I've been super fit. I've let myself go, you know, all these different things. But I think staying physically fit, whether you're in business or gaming or any aspect of life, makes everything better. I think staying in good shape trickles down to everything else you do, you know, whether it improves your mood, it improves your ability to perform. So most people say, hey, I don't have time to work out. You would be surprised by how much more productive you are in your life, no matter what aspect that is, by taking that time to work on your fitness.
Oh, amazing. You heard it first here from Dr. John Paul. Now, Dr. John Paul, where can they find you on social media?
So Instagram at Dr.John Paul, doctor spelled out, is where I primarily am located.
Now, for all the girls that are trying to look to talk to Dr. John, you'll have to get approved by me. He'll probably tell you that's true too. So we're already shooting this up in the air right now. For David Chen, my best friend, my boy, Dr. John, love you, man. I'm very proud of you. You know, I can't wait to play Fortnite with you. Hopefully it's tonight when I get back from the doctors. And everyone else, listen, man, I know it's hard right now. I know it's tough. I know there's days that you don't want to do this. But you just got to face reality. You're a fish swimming upstream. You stop, you go back down. You might as well just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. For David Chen, Dr. John Paul, and the Panax crew, we'll say goodnight. Be healthy, and we'll talk to you soon.
See you, brother.